Today I want to talk about choosing the right medium format camera for you, and I'm going to talk about the one I chose for myself, which is the Mamiya 645 Pro. So pull up a chair and let's get started. So before I make a big purchase, I always like to do a lot of research, and I like to create a pros and cons list. So on my list, I had quite a few medium format cameras that I was choosing from. And then I narrowed that list down using the criteria that I wanted in my camera. So it may be different for you. Your process may be different. This is just my process I wanted to share with you guys to hopefully help you decide on the right camera for you. So the first thing on my criteria was the weight of the camera. I tend to get sick and I tend to be in the hospital on and off, in pain pretty much 90% of the time. So weight of the camera is a huge deal to me. It may not even be a deal breaker to you at all, but for me, this is a number one on my list. Automatically, that eliminated a couple of the cameras that were on my list, and that would be the Mamiya RZ67 and the Mamiya RB67 and the Pentax 6.7. Those are very heavy, monstrous cameras. People always talk about how heavy those cameras are. You can look at those cameras and see if they're right for you. But for me, those were marked off my list. The next thing on my list was the price. Prices go up and down. Right away, price marked off the Mamiya 6 and Mamiya 7 off my list for me because those are pretty popular right now and I cannot afford those. So again, if you're looking for a lightweight camera, the price isn't a factor for you, then I would definitely recommend the Mamiya 6 or the Mamiya 7. Those are really good cameras. So now the next criteria is the film format. Usually you can have an idea of what film format you're comfortable with shooting. You might like square, so 6x6. A Rolleiflex may be good for you. 6x7 is a little bit bigger, but I chose 645 because you get more pictures per roll. You get 15 pictures per 120 film roll instead of 12 or 8. So now I was able to eliminate my list to only 3 cameras, and that was the Bronica ERTS and the Pentax 645 and the Mamiya 645. I crossed off the Bronica because I found out that it is very difficult to find a repairman willing to fix a Bronica, so that's what I heard in my research, so I automatically marked that one off. Then for the Pentax 645, couldn't take the film backs off, so I ended up with the Mamiya 645, and I found this clean Mamiya 645 Pro on eBay, so I couldn't pass it up. It was in my price range, and it came with a really nice lens. It came with 2 film backs, and it came with the plain prism, which was non-metered. Later on, I bought the metered prism and 2 more lenses, and I also bought the motor grip. So I'll talk about those things later, but first I think I want to talk about some pictures that I've taken with the camera and show you what it can do. So let's take a look at the pictures I've gotten with this camera. The first time that I used it was, I don't know if you remember the video that I made when I was testing out Ilford's new Ortho 80 Plus film. I took it over to Tradition. I was trying out that film, but I also had just received this camera, so I thought I'd take it with me to try it out. That was the first time that I took it on a test run, and I really enjoyed it. It was pretty heavy for me, but I did really enjoy the pictures I got from that. So this first picture was during the quarantine. I couldn't go out and take pictures, so I decided to set up a still life area on a table with a black velvet blanket and some old stuff that belonged to my aunt, and I took some of her old watches and jewelry and purses and things like that. You can see in the picture here. And the issue that I came up with this picture was I wanted to use the natural lighting coming in from the left, and because I did that, I wasn't thinking that I had to compensate with the shutter speed, and because I had it on a tripod, I of course should have used a slower shutter speed, but I don't have a cable. Now the cable release, I just found out, I didn't know this then, when you normally don't have the motor, the cable release for the actual Mamiya body is an electronic one. You have to get a special one, and when you do buy the motor, it does have the usual screw-in kind, and I didn't know that. So I ended up not using it, but what happened with this picture is I had to use a wide open aperture to compensate for just the natural light and the low lighting, and that created blurriness for pretty much everything except for the items in the middle of the picture. So I do love the vibe of the picture. Now this next picture was taken on the same roll of film. This was the Fuji 400H Pro film, and it was also taken with my 80mm Secor lens. And now I had a certain thing in mind for this. I bought these sunflowers on a grocery order that was being delivered during the quarantine, and I wanted to specifically do a still life with it. So I wanted it to look like a painting, like one of those old 60s still life paintings that, or older, that you see on velvet or something. So it's not completely in focus, and I wanted it to look this way. I wanted it to look like a painting, and I actually really love this picture. Now this next picture I was taken on HP5, Ilford's HP5. It is an antique typewriter that I have, and I had a project in mind that I wanted to take a close-up picture of it and frame it big and frame it in my library, you know, where I have all my books. Again, I had the issue because I was using natural lighting, and again I had the issue where I had to open wide the aperture, so I couldn't compensate with the shutter speed. So I'm definitely going to retake this picture with a cable release button so I can lower that shutter speed, close that aperture back down. That way more is in focus, because you can see here in the picture only the top, the LC Smith, is in focus and the whole bottom is out of focus. I don't want that. I want the entire thing to be into focus. It's still a nice picture, but not what I was trying to do. So I'll retry that one. So now, a couple days later, as my sunflowers started to die and wilt, I decided to start taking pictures of the one flower that was left out of the bunch, and I tried metering for different areas of the flower. In the first picture I metered for the middle so that that would be bright and I could see the middle, and then the second picture I metered for the mid-tones so that everything came out. And then the last picture I metered only for the petals, and that made the middle dark. And I'm not sure which one I like the most. I think I really like the dark one, but I really like the trio, and I might actually print these as a triptych since they do all look different even though they are the same flower. So now this final shot of my dog Frankie, he helped me practice some portraits. I didn't have anybody willing to sit for a portrait during quarantine, so, and my cat, I tried it originally with my cat, and of course cats don't listen to anything you say. So I tried my doggy Frank, and for a treat he sat there and looked at me on a pillow, and this is my velvet blanket in the background, and he's just on a table with two lights, the lights that I'm using right now. Favitech lights that I bought on Amazon for cheap, and I used my Sekonic meter, and I metered for his fur because his fur is very white and he tends to get very blown out in pictures. And this was Ilford's Delta 3200 film, so it's very light sensitive. I didn't want it to blow out, but I loved this picture so much that I actually framed it and I put it up in my house. I don't have a lot of wall space in my house, but as you can tell, I'm really loving the quality of the pictures I'm getting from this Mamiya, so there are a lot of pictures that I do want to frame. So that's it for some of the shots I took. I just wanted to show you a few. I didn't want to show you a lot because there was a lot to cover in this video, and I hope you really liked them. I showed you different film stocks used in the Mamiya so that you could see how it performs with the different stocks. Now let's talk about the specs of the camera and see if it's the camera for you. So now I'm going to talk about the features of the Mamiya 645 Pro. Right now I have the rapid winder knob connected to it, although I normally use the motor. This is what I got. This is what I originally was using, and for this you would shoot holding it like this from underneath, and you would look through the viewfinder and you would press the button, and you have to always remember to take the dark slide out. So it doesn't allow you to take a picture until you take the dark slide out. So that's a nice feature. Now the shutter dial is from bulb all the way up to 1/1000th of a second. So if you choose either one of the aperture priority settings, it has to be with the AE prism finder. Inside the prism finder on the left side, it shows you a scale of what shutter speed it's choosing for you, and you would choose your aperture, and then it would choose, you would slightly hold down your shutter button and it would choose the shutter speed for you depending on the light, and it'll show you on the side which one it's choosing. Then on here, on top of the back, on top of the film back, both film backs, they have where you set your ISO and what film is loaded in it. And it has the option to be able to take it off and put a new one on with a different roll of film. Mid-roll, you can take it off in the middle of filming a roll, and you could put, let's say, black and white film in while you're using color film. It has a switch for mirror lockup on the side, and then on the other side it has an option switch for multiple exposures. Right here around the shutter speed button, there's a dial where you could choose self timer, and then there's also an option for locking the shutter. Then you have over here on this side, you have battery check. So when you hold it down, the light up here lights up and tells you your battery's okay. And I think it takes a 6-volt battery in the camera itself. Then when you want to attach the motor grip, you would push this lever up here and lift the old rewind crank out. Attach that, put the lever down, and there you go. This makes it easier to hold, and everything is right on the motor. This takes 6 AA batteries. So when you attach the motor grip to it, you automatically move all of your buttons and settings right here at your fingers, so you can turn it on. When you go to start, it winds the film for you, and it also has a battery check. So when you turn it that way, you can see the battery check for the winder. It also has on the bottom of the winder for you to do multiple exposures, a switch. So it does make it heavier, and this camera did end up being heavier than I expected, but it's still relatively lighter than other medium format cameras, except for the Mamiya 6 and the Mamiya 7. They're lightweight. So there's quite a few lenses you can get for this camera. It takes all the lenses that the previous Mamiya 645s took. I so far have the C-Core 80mm 2.8, and it has the C on it, which means it has a coating on the lens. I also have bought 45mm 2.8, also with the C coating. That's for wider angle pictures. And then I tried out a zoom so that I could see what medium format pictures look like with a big zoom, because I normally take pictures using a zoom camera on my Nikon. But this is a 105 to 210 millimeter 4.5 C-Core. This made it very heavy. The whole thing ended up being so heavy that I ended up hurting my back trying to take a picture of a tree. I don't know if I'll use this one without using a tripod. Now you can also have the different viewfinders. Like I said, it came with a plain viewfinder. This is non-metered. I bought a metered prism so that I could automatically meter through with my eyes. I don't like having to use an external meter. And this gives you spot metering. It has average metering, and then it also has automatic average and spot metering, calculating the light of the picture and choosing for you which one is the best for the picture. It also has compensation here, so you can go up by 3 stops or you can go down by 3 stops. It's a really good system. I really recommend this if you're getting into medium format cameras. I mean, you can't afford that Rolly and you can't afford that Hasselblad. This is relatively a lot cheaper than those cameras. Those cameras go for thousands, whereas this goes up to $300 to $500. Hopefully my process helped you in your process, and if you're just looking at shopping particularly for the Mamiya 645, I hope I gave enough information for you to help you decide. If not, leave any questions you have down in the comments and I'll try to answer them. Also, if you want to check out my website, I do articles on all my reviews that accompany the video so that it has a lot more information in it, because I only get 15 minutes per video and I can't fit everything in there. So if you'd like to visit my website to see more pictures or get more information, the link for that will be down in the description. And until the next video, I hope you guys are staying safe out there, washing your hands, and until the next one, stay motivated and keep shooting.